After what has seemed like a year of tension for the India-Maldives relationship, it looks like things seem to have gotten on track for the two countries. You have very recently Foreign Minister S Jaishankar visiting the Maldives for an official visit, meeting with senior leaders from the Maldives, and of course you had the Maldivian President Mohamed Muizzu put out a statement acknowledging the importance of India-Maldives relations. This, of course, comes after a year that has been filled with tensions for the two countries. You might remember the earlier social media controversy earlier in the year that erupted and caused a lot of diplomatic tension in the bilateral relationship. But have things changed now? And that's the question we're looking to answer. And joining me to help us answer that question is Ahmed Adeeb, the former Vice President of the Maldives. Mr. Adeeb, thank you so much for joining us. You're someone who's a keen observer of the diplomatic relationship with India, someone who has served at the highest levels of Maldivian politics. Could we start by talking about this visit by Dr. Jaishankar to the Maldives? Do you think it shows that the two countries have decided to bury the hatchet after what has seemed like a year of tensions? How do you interpret this visit?
Yeah, thank you very much. So I've been briefing about this. I've been talking about this in Indian media and international media, even 6 months back. That India Out was a malicious campaign started by the former President Yamin, which was inherited by President Muiz. After getting elected, he had a fallout with President Yamin, and he inherited the party. And there was upcoming parliament elections. So there were elections in both countries, and as I predicted, everything calmed down after the elections. I think government of Maldives has reached India, and with my experience, I briefed about that Maldives will need India because for budget support and other. History tells us that it has been always India which is helping the neighbors and especially Maldives. So I knew that this time will come. So I'm very happy that Maldives has reached out, and External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar has visited Maldives, and it was a very warm reception. And President Muiz has met Foreign Minister as well. So I believe that this is a good start, I would say, and I hope that this will be a consistent start, and I hope the government will balance the India-China relationships and keep the foreign policy more balanced than before.
So, if I'm hearing you right, you were saying that as you predicted that after the elections you had much more balanced return to the India-Maldives relationship. So, does that mean that, of course, as often happens in the politics of neighboring countries around India, that India sort of becomes a political football within the domestic politics of other countries? Do you think that's what happened? That President Muizzu and the coalition that he was leading was using sort of India skepticism as sort of a rallying point for nationalism and to win elections? Is that what was happening?
Yes, very sadly that's what happened. I believe that was started by, as I mentioned, President Yamin, and now even President Moise has faced the reality. The economy is in very bad shape. There's a financial crisis in Maldives, and I would say it's been India who is very helpful, who is giving a lot of leniency in paying up our foreign debt, which is owed to India as well. So I believe that I was mentioning about this that the time will come, and I would say that yes, India was used as a political tool, I would say, by the President Yamin and his party, including President Muiz at that time. But now the government has to face the reality, and they have changed their stance. So now it is. I believe now it is the way forward is to go with India, I would say.
Right. And so if I could ask you, in terms of the balanced foreign policy, some of the questions that have been asked in India now is about the Maldivian relationship with China. China, of course, is a concern for India. Could I ask you on one specific side of the equation, where do you see the Maldives' relationship with China going over the next couple of years? We know that the previous government under President Solih was quite happy to have a sort of India first policy. How do you see President Muizzu's policy on China? Do you see that he will continue to pursue a close relationship with China? Of course, his first visit, one of his first visits was to Beijing to meet President Xi Jinping. How do you see China playing in Maldives' foreign policy?
So we have seen that, as you rightly said, President Solih had an India first policy, and before that, President Yamin had kind of China first policy, and again it has changed. The President Muiz started with the East, but I would say that even if you take the President Yamin's time, even President Solih's time, and even President Muiz's time, I think India has been our closest neighbor, and the India First policy was first derived by the President Yamin, and that has been historically our many of our presidents' policy for foreign policy, India First policy. So because it's the closest neighbor, it's the strongest neighbor, and the neighbor that who has been there always for us. So I would say that even though the China direction was there, but I think that now President Muiz has realized that that is not the way forward, because there are talks of delaying the payments to China, but there was no budget support or nothing coming from China as of now, I would say. So I think President Muiz will consider the reality and try to balance the foreign policy rather than going all out towards China.
So, if I could ask you, one particular part of the controversy between India and the Maldives was on the question of India's defense personnel within the Maldives. India was asked to remove its troops from the country. Of course, President Muizzu, during his election campaign, framed this as foreign troops on Moldavian soil as a threat to Moldavian sovereignty. His government refused to renew a hydrography agreement with India. So, do you think that now that the elections are over, and you were saying that, of course, you expect that Muizzu will try to cooperate with India and has woken up to this reality, do you think that defense cooperation is now back on the table between the two countries?
Uh, the defense cooperation between you mean the India or China?
Between India and the Maldives.
Yeah, I think the like the defense cooperation will continue. The defense minister and external affairs minister also had a very fruitful meeting. I hope it continues, but I but I believe that even in the election time, when President Muiz requested for the leave of the military personnel, India facilitated it, and I think there's nothing else to say to because that's what they were saying, that's what they were making politics out of it, but it's been resolved. So I think yes, there will be a more strengthening partnership of defense mutual agreements because we depend on each other, I would say, and and that I would believe that that's the way forward for Maldives.
Right. And if I could ask you in terms of something about the domestic politics of the Maldives, where do you see public sentiment for things like the India Out campaign? We've seen maybe things like copycat movements in countries like Bangladesh now, where there has been an increase in India's unpopularity. Do you think that there is no public support for movements like the India Out campaign in the Maldives, given that, politicians like former President Yamin seem to have moved out of the political scene as much? Do you think that that's the case?
Yeah, yeah, I think they are using India Out like campaigns to show the nationalism, ultra nationalism, ultra ultra religious philosophy sentiments, because India and Maldives, we are advocate for democracy, freedom of speech. I think the people who don't like those policies, democracy, extremists, they are coming up with these kind of campaigns. That about. That's what I see even in Bangladesh, and that's what I see even in Maldives, which is very much, I would say, extremely uh, an extreme campaign that goes. But I believe now it is resolved. I believe that President Moise is taking right decisions at the moment. I would like to congratulate the current government in these positions, because there are hardliner like Islamic religious parties even in Maldives that are against the current policies of the government.
Mm.
But I would say, wherever we see India Out campaign, I believe that I see that a lot of it is either ultra nationalists or ultra religious or extremists using this for their own agenda, to promote their agenda.
Right. If I can ask you something about the domestic politics of the country, Maldives, about President Muizu, where do you think President Muizu falls in this classification? Is he someone, do you think, who is a hardliner, someone who comes from the more religiously conservative side of Maldivian politics, or do you think that he is someone who is essentially a pragmatist? Who do you think Muizu is really? Where does he fall on the scale of Maldivian politics?
Yeah, Moise, he was the Minister of Housing who worked with me from 2012. At that time, he came from the party. After that, he joined MDA, the alliance with the PPM.
Hmm.
And 2013, again, he became the housing minister. After that, in 2018, he joined PPM,
Hmm.
and he became the mayor in 2020 as the PPM candidate. According to hardliner, I would not say he's a hardliner, but I would say he's conservative. Um, but I would say that he is also more realistically, he he believes in the situation, and I don't believe that he has that inclinations towards hardliners. But there are a lot of hardliners even in inside PPM and also in the close circles of him. But I believe so far what I see is that he's been balancing it. What we see is he's taking the necessary decisions for the nation and for the government to prosper. So we are yet to see, because we have just seen only 7 to 8 months of his presidency.
Hmm.
So we are yet to see what are the other policies that he'll bring in the next 1 or 2 years.
Understood, sir. So, if I can ask you one or two final questions about number one, could you tell us a little bit about the economic situation in the Maldives right now? Of course, President Muizu asked India for some support in easing debt repayments from India to the from sorry, debt repayments that Maldives had to make to India. Can you tell us a little bit about what has pushed the Maldives into that sort of economic situation? What is the economic state of the country right now?
Yeah, the current economic situation, which is inherited by Moise, is because of the deficit financing of the successive governments before, and also the during the COVID, the previous government had to take a lot of loans, so which is now President Moise has to pay back,
Hmm.
and there are sukuks and bonds which is going to mature in next 2 years, uh, which for which we don't have the reserves. So it is a very critical juncture for not only for Maldives but for the economy, and also for the for Maldives to make right decisions, especially in the foreign policy and in the geopolitical arena. So so Moise has a lot of challenges ahead. Next 2 years will be difficult because there's a lot of foreign debt to be paid, for which he has to raise a lot of finances, not only from the capital markets but a lot of bilateral finances to manage for Maldives not to fall into that situation where Sri Lanka was in last 2 years. So so there are a lot of challenges ahead for the Maldives government and also for the Maldivian economy.
Understood, sir. And so my final question is, in terms of what India can do to help in this scenario. Of course, there were questions about India changing their repayment schedules to suit Maldives. more. There was, of course, exports of essential commodities that India was allowing, despite for the rest of the world having export restrictions. Also announcing lots of development projects. This time, when External Affairs Minister Jaishankar visited the Maldives, is there anything else that you think India can do, that you think India should consider in terms of helping the Maldives in this economic situation and helping the relationship move forward after this year of tension?
Yeah, yes, absolutely right. India has helped in many ways, and I believe that India was very mature even in the difficult times we had in past months, where uh, India was mature enough to pass it by, and I believe India has won even this government's confidence and also changed the geopolitical situation. So Maldives, I would say that for Maldives, yes, India can still do a lot, but it will depend on the actions and the decisions of the Maldivian government as well, because we believe that India is going towards 5 trillion economy, and we are just 5.5 billion dollar economy. I believe there are many ways that we can integrate our economies and grow together. So there are a lot of things that India can do, and India is doing, like the digital payment systems that been signed up even during this visit. So there are many ways that I would say that India can still help us, but for Maldives, but it will depend on the actions and the policies of the government of Maldives as well.
Understood. Former Vice President Adeeb there explaining to us the bilateral relationship, where the India-Maldives relationship is now, and actually sounding a very positive note in terms of how the relationship is going to move forward after a year that has seen a great deal of tensions between these two countries that have traditionally been the strongest of bilateral partners. Vice President Adeeb, thank you so much for your time, for explaining what's going on in the India-Maldives relationship, and thank you so much, dear viewers, for watching India Today Global.